who doesn't want to be visible, take appropriate action.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'm very happy to see the number of people that come to this session today. My name is Auke van Nimwegen, and uh, together with John, I'm your host today in inviting Don back to speak to us. Um, yeah, let me say a few words before Don will continue. We've started working with Don, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, isn't it, Don? Something like that.
That's right.
And
Yep.
this was first around setting up the trainer program. We contacted Don's father, Don, and asked him whether we could continue such a trainer program that we had in the past. And he also connected us with Don too, his son, and we've worked a number of years together on that. And started, a few people have been trained in that meantime. And then after Don passed, we again talked to John, and I talked to Don, and we said we really feel the need to set up some sort of a structure, something to continue the work of Don. And and with that, actually, we had two objectives. One was to set up what we would call a yellow network. So a place where everybody that works with Spiral Dynamics and applies it in whatever context can connect. And secondly, to set up a blue structure. So to make sure that things like certification programs for trainings are there, and that everybody who has interest has access to various trainings around the world. And we've worked the last couple of years to do that. And the result of that is a website that we now have, but most of you have used to register, and various other things. So we're not going to talk too much about that content. We felt it would be great to let Don too talk about his father and the work of his father. And of course, for you all to meet him, for you all to learn a little bit more about what the foundation is about and what it's doing, and and also in an attempt to sort of reconnect to old friends, which I'm really happy to see that quite a few I see online here. So we'll have the session will last for about an hour. Don will talk for somewhere around 30 minutes, and after that we have questions and answers. When questions arise, we would ask you to put them already in the chat. I suggest, Don, that we don't interrupt your talking with questions, right?
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, good. So, please, the floor is yours, Don.
So, good morning, everyone from Argyle, Texas. And if all of you know Dad, we were being a Texan. We were quite proud to list our location as Texas over the United States because we tend to think of ourselves as Texans first here, which is something to be proud of as well. And really, before I start, I just wanted to thank Auk and John and Rika and for including me in this. It's just an honor. It's an honor to carry on an extent of Dad's work, his legacy. He just would have been so proud of all of you, everyone that's, I like to say, that's in that community and his community. I just can't tell you how many times he would just talk about you, the work that you're doing, the care and concern he had, for you personally, not just the words that you spoke, but just personally. And he knew a lot about you personally, and that meant a lot to him. And I think most of you know my mom, Patricia, was, to say heavily involved is an understatement with Dad. She was his rock, his sounding board on things. His The power behind him was her, and so really on behalf of them, my sister Belinda, and I think most of you might know my brother Matthew, who passed away last year. Um, I wish he was here today to participate with us, but I know in spirit that he is. And so thank you. Just thank you all for giving me the opportunity to get to know you and to be involved with you. It just means the world to me. I wanted to start something that was 1986, the fall time here in the States. So it was October, November. I was freshly out of college, and it was the time that Dad was really kicking off in
Will
South
this guy
Africa.
getting some?
He had um, chosen South Africa, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But I went with him on a trip, and he wanted me to go, wanted me to see what he was doing. I was a little bit undecided what I was going to do as a career. And so we flew to Johannesburg, and he did his thing. And you don't know how many of you know this, he was a, a history buff, and especially around wars and battles. And not so much the nuts and bolts of types of cannons and guns and that kind of thing, but how they happened, why they happened. And throughout growing up, we made several trips through the southeast part of the U.S. to visit Civil War battlegrounds, and it was just such a rich history, and it's just something that really resonated with him. And so he organized with a man from a local historical museum for us to visit battlefield of what became to be known as the Battle of Isandlwana, which was 1879, and between the Zulu and the British. The British were conquering Southern Africa at the time, and this massive battle with the Zulus, which the Zulus won. What's to say they won the battle, but eventually lost the war. But so we went out with this gentleman and just in Zululand, and I mean nothing out there, just where this battle and this guy, if he was alive today or was able in a different era, and he could have been a narrator on a History Channel show. He was so vivid and he was like, in dawn, you can see the Zulu here, you can smell the campfire, and the British were preparing their meals. And it was that kind of detail to him. And I'll never forget, I looked at Dad, he was just enthralled with it. I mean, that was his element. And so I understood um, that part of it, but it was like it was more than that to him. It so when we were done, we went back to the hotel and we were just talking about it. And so I finally just asked him, what, I'm at the time I'm early 20s, and I thought it's cool, but it didn't make as much sense to me, why we were really there. Like, okay, this is great. I mean, I'm really interested now, but I didn't know anything about it. But that wasn't the point to him. And he looked at me and he said, and I had written down a note, and this, granted, this is 40 something years ago. He said, how can I hope to provide any direction on where they're going if I don't know where they've been? And I thought about that really for the rest of my life. I thought about that. What does that mean? Because he wasn't just talking about history repeats itself. That's way too of a simplistic thing to him. It's it was understanding where people come from, where have you been, and where are you going. And it just, to me, it really encapsulates all of his work. Where have you been? Where are you going? And I've thought about that so many times. Um, it how it just summarizes spiral dynamics, the work that you do, value systems of understanding how people evolve, how they grow, and he would sometimes say where they would ratchet up from one level to the next and come back. There was a flow. And but sometimes I didn't know if, so I think what he did sometimes is he would say these things to me and Belinda and mom. Matt was really young at the time, but he would say it out loud to see how it sounds. In a way, he was putting together his thoughts, and it's kind of funny for me. I caught myself doing the same thing. My wife and daughter will walk by, and they're like, "Are you talking to us?" And I'm like, "No. What do you mean?" And like, "Well, you're just talking." And and I do the same thing. I start to like formulate thoughts and things, and I find myself saying out loud, I'm like, damn it, that's just like him. I'm my father's son, and I'll get a good laugh about that. So it's really good. When um so I really see that as kind of the early stages of how he saw spiral dynamics evolving. And he never professed to know the answers. That was not what he was about. Um, that he had the final answer. That's up to you. That's up to all of us. His greatest desire was for everyone, whether you're on this call and people. Sorry, I've got this time of year. I've got the worst allergy, so if I feel like I'm going to sneeze a second, I am so sorry. But um, he never professed to have the answers, never. And I don't know that he really said that he knew the questions to ask. What he did was instill in all of us the freedom to get past seeing types of people and to look at the types in them. And that's an expression he used many times, that when I would have a question about something or just wonder, why did you say that? Or why don't you do this? And he'd kind of let me know. He'd say, you're trying to form a thought based on a type of people, and that's not, you can't do that. It's the types in them. And when you see it that way, now you have the avenue for them to evolve. That was a big, um, that was a big thing to him. So even taking a step back, Dad grew up, if I don't know how much of you know this, in a small town in Oklahoma, very small town. And his life's mission or goal was to be a minister. In fact, he met my mother at Abilene Christian College in Abilene, Texas. Her brother was there at the time, and Dad was there to be a preacher, to study. It's a Church of Christ funded or backed university. He was to be a minister. And that's how he grew up. There was never a question about really him doing something different. And at that time, especially across the South, the religion played an integral role in people's lives. And it wasn't a matter of did you go to church, is what church did you go to? And he, we wound up moving to, so we lived in Oklahoma. He wound up getting his doctor's degree at the University of Oklahoma. And then we moved to Denton, where we lived our entire lives. And his first church was in Crum, Texas. It's a small little town. And for those of you that have not seen this part of the world, I know you've seen TV shows with the little white clapboard church with a steeple. That was it. One room, one big room church. And that was his church. And I must have been 6, 7, 8. It was that time frame to the late 60s into the early 70s. And it's not something I noticed at the time. I was just too young. But he began to question. I don't know that he questioned his faith, but he questioned the message. I don't believe his faith ever wavered, but he went from being with the doctrine, he realized it wasn't enough. And what I call it is fear and faith. And at the time, and still true today, in a lot of religions, the message is based on fear, that it's a way to control people. It's a way to keep the tithes coming. It's a way to, it's easy. It's easy to preach fear. And in this case, if you don't do this, you're going to hell. If you do this, you're going to hell. And he became disillusioned with that doctrine. And again, I don't believe he ever was, because I know he wasn't, because we talked about it. He didn't lose his faith. But the fear caused him to look elsewhere for whether it's for guidance, for his message, and that's was the impetus for him to meet with Claire Graves, to do all the things that you know about. And so it wasn't the word itself, it was how it was being used. And what happens, and this is true today, and this is what I think he would be most kind of focused on today, is the whole concept of fear, how it's used to, again, control people. And now we're talking about whether it's from a government, from the media, from political parties, and they use fear. And the problem with that is it's not sustainable. And I think he would have made this a big point, that people eventually see through it and they look and say, well, have I wasted this time? Have I followed false hope? And people are floundering because of it, because of the fear. They've lost their faith. The fear has caused them to lose their faith. And I'm not talking about a religious faith. It's faith in themselves, faith in anything. And I think we're seeing this around the world today. It's not a U.S. issue. It's in every continent, every country. People are floundering for they're searching. And this is where I think it's incumbent upon all of you to take the knowledge that you have. Some comes from dad. That's great. But where it comes from is yourselves. No one can duplicate what you've been able to do on your own. The people you meet with, the people you see, how you interact with them. It's just this whole concept of it's fear and faith, where fear, you just have constantly someone telling you what the other guy is going to do to you, but very little about what they're going to do for you. And that's unsettling. And it's become pervasive in our institutions, in our companies, in our governments, and it's not sustainable. And I think it's something that he would have, again, I know I've said it, it would have been a main focus um, for him. And I actually wanted to, I had it pulled up here. I wanted to read something. It's on the website. There's a handful of kind of quotes from him. And there's one that really, I want to just read it, even though you can see it on there. What he said was, it's not that we need to form new organizations. It's simply that we have to awaken to new ways of thinking. I believe it makes no sense to spend a lot of time attacking the current realities. It's time to create the new models that have in them the complexity that makes the older systems obsolete. And to the extent that we could do that and do that quickly, I think that we can provide what will be necessary for a major breakthrough in the future. That's him. That 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 sums up him just in that one statement. So I haven't seen that in a long time. So I'm really glad that we have it on the site. Um, so I wanted to finish with where you've been and where you're going. It was 1979 when he said that. He never said it again until a couple of weeks before he passed away. Rika and her son Ruan had come here and stayed with us, and we went where Dad was staying. We went to see him, and it was a good day. You know, he had some good and bad days, but I could tell when we walked in, it was going to be a good day. He was excited to see Rika and Ruan both, and that's the first thing he said to them, just out of the blue. Where have you been and where are you going? And it just floored me. Um, and this is the first time I've said this to Rika and Ron that was the case. I just couldn't even know what to say, that was him to me telling, especially Rika, one of his favorite people in the world, it's time to carry on. And it's time to carry on. And that's my message to everyone here. If there's anything you can take from what I've said today, it's an encouragement for you to continue on the path you're on. And with the foundation website, it's it's just an honor and a privilege to be associated with it for all the work that Auk and John especially have done. Um, Even just to be in their good graces to include me, I just can't thank them enough. And what I hope that you do is use the materials on the website to take even just a piece of what he put together and carry it forward. That's what he would have wanted. And when you have something to contribute, we want it to be a place for you to do that, to have new ideas, new ways, new levels of the spiral, all of those things. They didn't end with him. They began with him. And just I know I've said it. That's my encouragement to you is use the foundation as it benefits you, and then it is incumbent upon you to benefit others, and that's giving back. So however that, I don't know necessarily that we have a firm plan on how to do that. So we are open to your thoughts and ideas on how to put your work out there for others to see, for others to debate, discuss, that's what it's all about. So I thank you. The last time I'm going to say it is, where you've been, where are you going? That's a simple little saying that means a lot. And I appreciate the time today. So I'm going to turn it back over to John, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you so much, Don. Thank you for that introduction, and that and bringing so much feeling of your father and of what was kind of within him in how he generated this work over so many years. And likewise, I also want to thank you. I mean, it's really kind of you to kind of to say it's an honor to be involved, but this wouldn't be happening without you and without the family and without uh, the space and permission that you've given us to do this. And maybe just to before kind of opening to questions, just to give a bit of a frame for what is there on the website that you refer to and what isn't there yet. Because it's a beginning, it's a platform, it's a place for us to come together, but it's also uh, it's soon going to become the place where kind of trainers and announcements about trainings and the ability to spread the trainings we do, that it will be located there. It'll be a place for those who are practitioners to have a kind of a window on who they are. And I think most of all, at least in terms of how I see it and would like to see it, it's a place for making things happen, for creating projects, for people putting to bring things into the community, finding other people who would like to work with whatever that is with them and creating initiatives. Because the thing I think that you referred on to the work in South Africa and to what your father did there, the extent to which for him this was something to be applied. It was something that we do things with and from. It was ways of working with societies. It was ways of working with companies. And I know there are some other people here who've been doing that work over a long time. And the world needs more. The world needs more. Everything that you said about the nature of fear and faith and about, well, where are people going to put their energy? What's going to support them in the future? As far as I'm concerned, the foundation exists because the world needs more of that. And that's where I rather hope that this event is the beginning of that conversation and that activity. So I'll stop there and kind of open up if there's anybody who wants to ask a question of Don or uh, bring something into this conversation that's particularly around the foundation. So not a political discussion, not a, but a sense of, well, why are we here and what are we going to do? So please, I invite you to come in. I haven't been
There's a
monitoring the questions. Auke, have you been monitoring the questions in the chat? Maybe you want to
Yeah,
bring somebody in.
that's what I started to say. There's a couple of questions in the chat that John, you and Hawk would be probably better to answer than myself.
Okay.
One of them is, how are you engaged with projects like ours with the I'm not sure how to say the word.
The Diffelia Meshworks,
Yeah,
Elaine. Yeah, we're very familiar with Elaine's quite brilliant work and his use of Spiral in building a project around um, a, a group of a community of African people who make shea butter and making a sustainable business out of that. And I would just hope, Elaine, in answer to your questions, how will we engage with that? I hope that we will find ways of supporting you to spread what you've done to other people and other people to do similar things that you've done elsewhere. I mean, you're a kind of for me, a shining example of what can be done with spiral dynamics and what I would like to see. I'd like to see 100 projects, 1,000 projects over over the years and the decades like that, because that's exactly what I think we're here for. And I also see Russell's question about um, kind of developmental psychology and social connection. That's the kind of thing that I hope you could bring in and put into the community space within the website and draw other people towards you who want to have that conversation and want to make it um, practical and generative. So, that would be my response. I'm
Can
conscious
I
that we
can I
don't
add
have
something to
Don
that,
for.
John?
So yes, do Alka. I was
Yeah.
just wanting to say that when you've spoken, Alka, Don's only going to be with us for maybe another 15 minutes. So if to make sure that there's a space for questions for him before he leaves, we can carry on afterwards. But Alka, yes, do carry on.
Yeah, what I want to say is that what we're doing is we are not, you know, the website, we provide information there as much as we can. We are a small group of volunteers doing that. And so we have very limited capacity. The main focus is to set up a yellow network, and that means self-managing. That means that um, with many, many of the questions we'll get, we'll say, "Great, go and do it." So if you feel that somehow you can contribute to that network, please do so. It's not a network where you find all the answers. It's a network where you can co-create with other like-minded people. And yeah, I mean, it's great if we can, provide information and services on the website itself. But what really makes such a network buzz is if people just get really proactive and start doing things. And so, yeah.
I would just like to, if I may, John and Auke,
Mhm.
Yes, Anne-Marie,
Please.
please
I,
do.
I would I would really just like to voice a great gratitude and thank you because, well, I know how for such a long time there has been this looking for a way to create something like this, a foundation where we can really make sure that the heritage is taken along, and you've stayed with it and you've done it, and that includes the family. So I just really want to voice out loud big gratitude for that, um, and in whatever way we can serve. But first of all, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mm.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Okay.
Okay, I'm looking at other questions that are coming here. Not yet seeing any for Don, so I will uh, maybe carry on with what I'm saying here. Bruce, you have something to say. Bruce is an elder of this
Yeah,
community
elder in many ways.
in every way. Yes.
I have files, probably 2 or 3 thousand entries of everything from book reviews from a spiral dynamics perspective to aggregation of examples for each of the levels of the spiral. And I'm wondering whether or not the foundation is a place that I could deposit those.
Yes,
so that
please.
you could have them available to anybody who wants to use them. I'm not sure I'm going to be around for another 10 years to answer any questions about them, but there's a lot of data there, a lot of research. I've gone on using spiral dynamics as a research tool, and I'd be willing to share all that. But if the foundation's willing to accept that, I'd be delighted to be able to forward them.
Definitely, please. Yes, we're willing. I don't know what it will take for us to get them up there and make use of them and make them sort of available in a way that people can access. And so if you have any thoughts as you share them with us about how best to organize them, that would also be helpful. And I guess we are also going to be interested in people who might be volunteers to actually do the work of getting it onto the website and making it available. I mean, what you've just described sounds like a really wonderful but quite massive project. So thank you and help.
Yeah. Thanks, Bruce. That's a very, very kind offer, and I'm sure we can make that work.
I thank you as well. I'm just reading through some of the comments in the chat and what Bruce just said. It's exactly what we hope and have in mind, for this website. That's exactly it. So thank you.
Indeed.
Maybe also good to mention that Rika has been working through some of the files and documents. So this is very much in line with what we want to do. It's just a lot of work. So yeah.
Yes, Rika has a lot of the original Graves archive, and we certainly are similarly keen to make that available. I'm seeing a question here from Michiel about what will the relationship be with our stepbrothers and sisters at Integral. As far as I'm concerned, if people are interested to do spiral dynamics, whatever the perspective and background they come from, they're welcome. I mean, I'm not sure what else to say. I mean, yes, I'm aware that there have been kind of places in parts of our community where some people hold some kind of some strong points of view about things from the past. That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's not something that's going to belong in the foundation. We're not interested in division. We're interested in what we can do together. So if, wherever, and I can see people on this call who got here because of an integral background. So it's not a question as far as I'm concerned. Anything you want to add, Auke?
No, I think that's sums it up. There's a couple of questions in there for Don, which I think it would be good to address.
Okay. You're further down the thread. You, by all means, bring those
okay,
in.
I'll let me see where. One is, Don, if you have any publishing plans of your own or in relationship to your father's life and story. That's probably a short question. Yes or no?
I do not. That's a good question. Currently, the answer is not at this time. That's an interesting question, though.
Okay. Oh, a new ID. Thanks, Russell, for that. Before Don leaves, I would like. Sorry
for my English. Yeah, I would like to ask if they had a shared vision about the future of people using spiral dynamic or the term spiral wizard that you heard around?
So is that specifically in relationship to the copyright of that, or
is that about
context?
what you put in your message, which was about what was the shared division between shared vision between Don and Claire Graves? Is that the question?
Yes, it's like maybe in intimate relationships, they were thinking about the future, what we can do, something that maybe inspire us, or maybe just something we don't know from the literature, especially because we don't know a lot about Graves these times. And I know the relationship was very close for both of them.
John, I think in a lot of the paperwork and a lot of the files that Rika is working on, you correct me if I'm wrong, but that is some information and that's coming. Is that your understanding as well, that John or Ak or Rika, that I agree with the question that all the information and papers and everything like that we have with Dad's relationship with Claire is not would be, but it is going to be great to have up on the site.
Yeah, maybe I can respond quickly because
Great, yeah.
I'm involved with the Graves Foundation. And I think what is important is two parts of your question. The first part in terms of the documents and the story. This foundation really is dedicated to also the contribution of Beck. And one thing that I become very aware of in working in the Graves archives is that Don added something very specifically to that conversation. Claire was definitely more adult development psychologist and individual psychologist, and the more multicultural geopolitical application came from Don with his interest in the war in America and wars internationally and the more geopolitical application. There was that scent of Graves to Don in 1986 for him to say, come to South Africa because this is the country that holds all the different viewpoints. Term spiral dynamics wizard, spiral wizard was Don's, and that I can say academically. Terms, the colors didn't come from Graves, it wasn't used. So academically or technically, it is important for me and for us to really distinguish what was Graves, but also what was Don. And there were quite a lot of original thought that came from Beck that I think we hope to really establish here. So I'm so thankful was it Bruce, for the information. Any application information, any work applied will really, really help. And we will find ways to make sense of that in building the body of knowledge. Also, academically, we are working very hard in ensuring that as a field, academic field, spiral dynamics and the application thereof is truly correctly documented and applied. So there are case studies in terms of that if some of you are interested in the academic application. In this body, the Don Beck Foundation, we really strive towards the keeping the field of study pure, keeping the trainers can I say calibrated internationally, and then of course, as Don said, on this explained here, true to the way in which his dad would have spoken, but also true in the way that Graves would have spoken. A thing of Beck that I just also would like to say is his absolute acknowledgement of Graves. Every single time that he spoke, it was acknowledged. So, and the documentation towards the end of the life of Graves was mostly from Beck in the library, in the archives. Not all are published in the book, The Never-Ending Quest. Not all are there. There's also information missing that we don't know where to find. That's on the Graves Foundation. Something else that Beck have added that's not necessarily elsewhere documented is the work of Lorraine Laubscher, that helped in on the lower colors in the spiral, especially in South Africa, the tribal systems, purple, beige, red systems, which also was a unique contribution. Lots have sat uniquely in Beck that I think is not necessarily contributed to him.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Looking for the
Rika.
publication.
Sorry, I'd just like to acknowledge and make that Rika is the fourth director of the foundation who is here, and she's probably the one with the most kind of academic. Well, she's definitely the one with the most academic credentials, and also the one with the most academic interest. And so that is, that's an important part of the future too. And again, it's something to unfold, something that we will see what that can bring. I'm sort of noticing some of the questions coming in. A lot of questions like, will the foundation become a publisher? Well, what the foundation becomes, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier and to what Don also was saying. Well, it'll become what we make it. It will become what it will be dependent on what the energy and expertise is that comes from this collective and puts into it. I mean, and I'll also repeat what Auke said. We're just volunteers here. This isn't my job. We're actually prohibited from earning money from it, so it can't be my job as directors. It's a charity. So what this becomes is going to be very definitely dependent on what we can create together. And what Auke said about this being a yellow network, we have to allow things to form. We have to support them. They have to become self-sustaining by themselves. This isn't, at least at this point, it's not a foundation with millions of dollars behind it. I'm quite happy if somebody wants to throw those into the pot, but right now that's not what we are. And so, this is very much kind of going back to what Don was saying. Well, what do you want to build? What can we do together? And I also just want to refer, there's a question there about people needing to be certificated to participate here. It is going to be really important for this to work that we are a community of people who actually understand what we're doing. So, there's a reason that this is also the kind of central coordination of training in Spiral, because these things go hand in hand. There's a lot of very amateur and sometimes quite wrong stuff talked about in relation to Spiral out in the world, and that would be damaging to the quality of the work that we can do. So it's not an intention to be discriminatory, but we do have to find a way to hold that boundary, that there is an entry point of at least the minimum expertise of having done a level 1 foundation. That is what it's going to take for this to be done properly in our perception.
Yeah.
I want to kind of turn things back over to Don, because maybe you only have a little bit longer, and I'll come back to you, Bruce. Like I see you want to talk, but Don, do you have anything more you'd like to say?
I do. Well, just to thank everyone again, and I did see a couple of questions of, what am I doing? And of all things, here in 7 minutes, I have another Zoom meeting with the president's office from Namibia, which is a place that I lived and worked, and we're very actively involved there now, along with a couple of other countries in Southern Africa. And what we do is large-scale infrastructure projects in conjunction with them. It's not just go in and build something. It's in more of a sense of taking what they have today, the resources they have, whether that's in the ground resources, human capital, and develop programs that benefit the people, that take them from kind of where they are today, which in a lot of cases is very rudimentary challenges within the governments. How do we create great jobs? How do we create training uh, so it's sustainable? Which is really, if I could sum up our goal, is how do we create an environment within infrastructure that's sustainable, that doesn't continually take capital investment, that pays for itself and that they can self-manage. So that's what I do. So thank you. Unfortunately, I need to drop. Give me a couple of minutes here. Thank you. Thank you. Please reach out if there's anything I personally can do for any of you. It's an open door to me, shoot me an email and I will get back to you. Um, so that's it. Everybody have a great day, great rest of your week, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Don. Just want to make sure we continue the meeting a bit for any other questions, right? So
Yeah. So
I had,
yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
I have mourned the fact that we don't use email for communication. I know the old email system was wonderful because you could download things from it very easily. And I can't really, I guess I'm not sophisticated enough with regards to Facebook and all of those to be able to use it very effectively. Is there some way you could make sure that the foundation has a way of allowing us to post things and download things that work effectively?
Great question. And there's another question I saw about wanting to share emails. We're in the process of building, I hope it'll only be another maybe 6 weeks from now, some more facilities into the website that will enable members to put their details up, including their email addresses, so that you will be able to see one another. And that's the beginnings, that's the foundations of the basis for community conversations. There is a communal space for where conversations about projects can go on. So I'm not sure, I'm not sure yet what more we might need and what capacity it might take for us to make it kind of even easier for people to share materials as they do projects. And it might be that groups have to kind of form some stuff that they do from within the foundation and the conversations there, and then possibly use other features like WhatsApp groups to support, whatever they're doing as subgroups, because potentially that could become quite large. So I'm not sure whether that answers your question, Bruce. That certainly, if you have access to people's emails and things that you want to share within the foundation, then you can use the email system for that in the old-fashioned way. So I hope it will be, supportive for people at whatever level of technological sophistication they feel they have. I'm seeing a question there from Russell. Our current plans for training and certification, that element, well, you can already see we will post training courses that are planned on the foundation, and so that will be visible. And that will increase because the new facilities we're just building includes greater visibility for trainers and for the management of the training process. Thank you, Ben P, for the offer of help with tech stuff. Maybe you could drop me a line privately, because I'd like to be clear on where to get hold of you and take you up on that offer. And any other offers that we have from people who want to throw themselves in and support this. I think I made it fairly clear we're going to need all the help we can get. Okay, anything on your mind right now, or?
No. Let's see. There was one statement about Value Match and the foundation. Well, we are separate entities, and that will just remain so. So the idea with the foundation is that that it's a means to connect the different people around the world that are busy with Spiral Dynamics, also the ones that give trainings. And one of the effects of our work in the last years has been that Frank Lin in China, for instance, has joined us and is giving trainings in Chinese. And Mark Matisse from French-speaking Switzerland is giving trainings in French. And Anatoly will soon be giving trainings in Russian. So there is a network building of further building the network of certified trainers to also make sure that the trainings become available in the different local languages. Good. You see. Okay, maybe if people have more questions or comments, then you can put your hands up. I think we've sort of exhausted what's in the chat there. Safir?
Yeah, thank you. I would like to ask about the website. First of all, I register and edit all my profile, and then it's gone. I don't know, but maybe just a technical problem, or maybe I logged into different username. I don't know. And what are the activities that are going to be in the closed sections? Basically, are there going to be activities? Because I didn't find there anything. There is like I read it, SDI certified member only access. What is it for, this area?
Okay, well, you because you are SDI certified, as I understand it, you should have access to that. So if you can't see that, we need to check out. Yeah, there may be something about your registration. In terms of building profiles, that's not fully up and running yet. That's another part of what's happening in this kind of 6-week project we're in. So please bear with us over things like profiles and trainer profiles and practitioner area. But for those of you who are registered as certified, you should be already able to get in and see the community space that is there, and the kind of the places where there's a straightforward but relatively simple option to start kind of posting things that you want other people to join you in. And so what it's going to take for that to happen is for people to actually be in there and watching and posting and watching what other people are posting. So this is this is our launch. Although we've put stuff out in email, this is really the start. This conversation that we're having today is the start of saying, okay, please get in there, put in the things that you want to make happen, and see what energy you can draw. There was a question in the chat about, do we have defined plans for the foundation? And hoping that I'm putting across that actually we don't. We have visions, we have ambitions, we have things we'd love to see happen, but they will happen because people generate the energy that makes them happen. That's the nature of the yellow network that Hauke was talking about.
So just let me understand. So this area is an area maybe to join other ideas and collaborate with others, or
Yes.
a place. Okay, great. Okay, now I get it.
Good. Thank you.
Good. Anything else that needs to be said in this space?
Okay. Well, thank you for everybody for being here, and be patient with us over the next couple of months while more of this comes together. If you find something isn't there yet that you think that it should be, please be a little patient with that, or drop us a line and say what you need to see. We have support from Petra, who also will kind of pick up and respond on our behalf to emails and so on. So, allow for the fact that this is a work in progress. It's not a massive, well-established system that can do everything right away. We're going to have to build this bit by bit over time, and we really welcome your engagement in that. So thank you for being here. I'm kind of doing the last minute anymore, or I think we may be ready to close the call, and thank you for your time and attention.
Thanks, everybody, and you can find us on the website. So if there's any more questions or comments or energy to participate.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, all.
Bye, everyone.
Hello and goodbye. See you, everybody. Thank you, Theodora, for your nice words. Oh, thank you.